Hey everyone, and welcome to October. Just a couple of topics this time around. In the usual writing news, progress is being made. I am working on the Winterfall series right now, and I just finished a chapter, or at least a draft of one that I think I'm reasonably happy with. I'll probably still look over it and just see see if it works for me, and I guess start on the next chunk of that overall piece. And let's see, I want to start writing some more short stories and get that back up and running. I have one that I started, but I guess, stopped a little bit way through just because it's kind of one of those. Well, the basic idea of the story is that it's kind of like one of those things where, my main character is Joe is telling his daughter the story of, I guess, their origin. And it's kind of like the version that they're aware of at that point in the story, because there's a lot of information that they don't know. So I'm trying to figure out, how they solve this problem of getting from point A to point B without actually talking about what actually happened and what they would know based on the circumstances that they have, if that makes any kind of sense. But it's like, it's like history is passed down from one generation to the next based on what you're aware of. And sometimes you don't have a direct witness or a direct report, and even if you do, accounts change, like eyewitnesses. So, what do you know versus, what's objectively true? It's like, at some point the objective truth will be discussed in the course of the story. But as far as, right now, this is supposed to be set, I guess, sometime before the first project. So it's only permits me to use whatever they would have believed at that point. And that being said, there are some parts of the mythology that I am still figuring out, both in terms of objectively what happened and also what they think happened. So it's kind of, I guess, in the stage where it's kind of stalled for the moment, just because I'm not sure of the folklore version yet, never mind the objective version of what actually occurred. And obviously there are certain bits that, based on the story, that they can't know in either version, or at least not at the time until the appropriate reveal. So that's kind of why that story is stalled, even though it's a short piece. And I think what I might do, I guess, is just maybe jump projects and work on a different short story until I have enough to finish that one, because it's still a good project, or at least I think it will be. But it's just right now, I guess, just sitting in development. In video news, I have a couple of things that I'm going to be working on today. Obviously, this vlog, which I do every time I sit down to do some video work, just update everybody on what's going on in my world, how I'm doing, and all that kind of stuff. And, just general goings on. There is a couple of book reviews that I need to work on. One I need to record the video element for, do the editing and scheduling that. And the other one that I just need to record the audio for to complete in the next session. I've kind of gotten a fairly good sustainable pattern of producing book reviews, which is good because it helps take some of the burden off of my weekly scheduled YouTube projects, so that I can relax, secure in the knowledge that my channel is producing work, that people are seeing content that I'm producing, that I'm making things, and that they're, of sufficient quality, and that I don't really have to stress too much about what to do next, because, I have some time slots reserved at least 4 times a week, sometimes 5, during which I am reading the usually 2 books that I have. I know for a while I was doing a 3 slot system. Right now I'm kind of doing 2, I guess, because this way I can divide my attention, but not too much, and it also gives me the opportunity to jump projects if I need to, because I think that helps a lot with some of the things that come up, with my brain. Having a project to jump to if you get stuck on one, you get frustrated with one, keeps the frustration from building. And I think that's true for books I'm reading as well, because if I am frustrated with a book but not enough to want to get rid of it, there's always still the possibility that it's like if you just read a little bit at a time, but also having something else to read breaks it up so that it's easier to get through. And let's see. And speaking of that, I also kind of want to. Well, I guess before I segue into the next topic, I also want to maybe see if I can't come up with something that I can develop for like Patreon exclusive content. I might like to be able to produce some videos just for the patrons. And I guess the question for that would be, something easily doable, something sustainable. And I mean, right now, I just don't have a lot of patrons to really do a couple of the options. Like if I was to do like an Ask Me Anything or something, I don't know, maybe I would do a few for free, just public, just so that to get the ball rolling. But I've never really had a lot of patrons, and that's okay. I mean, it's not like I'm in it for the money or the numbers. But I do, just as long as at least one person is there and is kind of watching, that's really all that matters. Which I guess is kind of why, I mean, I have the sustainable, stuff I know I can do on the lower tiers, so that I don't ever have to, I don't run out of content. So there's always like the video stuff on the $5 tier, and the just me being grateful and just about everything public on the lower tier. And I would like to try and see if I can at least get the $10 tier back up and running at some point. But in order to do that, I think I need to be more comfortable in producing written work, which I'm still working on. But it's mostly just, I guess, because like with the book reviews and the vlogs are relatively straightforward, because there's always going to be events popping up in my life that I can talk about, projects that I'm working on, so there's always material. And it's sustainable. Same thing with the book reviews. It's like the books I'm reading anyway, so I can just work on these reviews, and then just as I go, I can produce more, and then there will be new material for you guys. So if I was to do something for that, like that was specifically Patreon exclusive, I would want to be able to do something that I could do sustainably, that wouldn't be too much of a pain in the butt to produce, that I could do on a regular basis, maybe along with the vlogs or something like that. I guess that's about it. I mean, I think I might have mentioned, Ask Me Anything, but, I would probably want more patrons for that. At least enough that there was a decent, I guess, supply of questions, maybe, or something. I don't know. Maybe I might just, like I said, get that started and just open it up for free, at first, just to get that going. But that's an idea. I mean, I'll think about some other stuff maybe and see if anything comes up. As far as books I am currently reading, I am still reading Sirius. I'm about 3/4 done with it, and to be honest, I'm ready to be finished, because it's, as I understand it, it has well, I don't know if I'd call it a bummer ending, but I know it doesn't end with the main character happy and fulfilled and moving on to the next chapter, or so to speak. And I don't know, had I known that at the beginning, would I have been interested in reading it? I don't know. I mean, I guess that what mostly kind of annoys me about it, and I know I'll mention this in my actual review when I get around to producing it, is it's very wall of texty, because it's a story told by a third person. It's like it's a narrator telling you Sirius's story, not Sirius himself telling his story from a canine perspective, which I don't know. It just kind of doesn't feel engaging, in the way that it would if it was, the dog himself talking, or narrating or whatever. I mean, because yeah, he can actually speak English or any of that stuff, but he left behind, according to the narrator, like written communications. They can understand him to a certain degree, because his vocalizations, they kind of I guess interpreted. So, I mean, it's not like you couldn't have done this. I kind of think that the story would have been better if it had been written from his POV rather than from uh, the scientist's daughter's husband telling you his life story. And I don't know, not to say, I mean, it works all right as a framing device. It's like, let me sit you down and tell you the story of Sirius. But the actual story, I would have preferred, I think, to hear from his perspective, from the main character's POV. And, the other thing, of course, is that because there's very little actual dialogue, a lot of it's very wall of texty. It's just like endless blocks of text, and that just makes it very hard for my brain to kind of just want to read it. Because, it's without the pattern of being broken up, it just is very, very tough. And I don't know if anybody else has that problem. Maybe it's just me. But, like I said, it's a good book. It's not, I mean, it's very rare that I will drop a book. And of course, at some point, maybe I'll eventually get around to doing the whole books I've dropped and why video. And, unfortunately, this would probably require me, I guess, to name drop a couple of books that I have stopped reading for whatever reason. And, I know my audience isn't huge, and hopefully it wouldn't, gather me any hate flames or anything like that. Because, I mean, it's not that I'm saying that any of these books are necessarily bad, but they were books that, for whatever reason, I could not finish. And, yes, they didn't meet my standards, but, that is not like a personal attack. It just is something that when I read these books, it was just not enough, I guess, base. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm not really not trying to be insulting to anybody. And it's like, I've read a lot of books that I didn't like the story, or that I thought the author wasn't very skilled. And but that's I mean, that's different. It's like, I remember one particular author that I didn't like a lot of their work, and I eventually stopped reading their material just because all of their protagonists were pretty much perfect Mary Sues. They were the kind of people that they had what they needed when they started, that they didn't really require anything. They weren't needing to struggle. They were usually just there to help help somebody else and provide them what they needed, which is, while not a bad story inherently, just lacks a lot of the elements that good writing, I think, should have. It's like your main character needs to struggle at least a little. It's like, what's the point in being a main character if you have everything you need already? It's like, if everything's designed in such a way to insulate your story against any kind of natural feeling conflict. But anyway, that's maybe a topic for a different video. But one thing I would like to discuss is that I'm also reading, I guess I should also finish talking about what I'm talking about, Artifact Space. I started reading Artifact Space. I don't remember who recommended it to me, but it was somebody in the writing group. And so far, it's pretty good. I mean, it took me a while because the first chapter had a lot of slang that or terminology that I didn't understand, some of which they explained, some of which they didn't, but I understood enough to get what was going on, which is, one of my bars for this book is worth my time. Because if I can't understand what's going on, that's one of the things that will make me drop a book. But I understood what was going on. Features Marka Nabarro, a character who is what is called a midshipman, and she gets a position on board a large vessel they call a great ship, which apparently is basically this big sword-shaped vessel about 10 kilometers long. And the human race has about a dozen of them, and they basically go in a big circle collecting trade materials to give to an alien race, which they exchange for something they call xenoglass, which is the basis for a lot of our products. So then they take it back to Earth, and the cycle continues. And, of course, the story begins when she gets on board and we get news of one of the great ships has been destroyed. Now, of course, this is pretty much like 12% of their gross domestic product, that they've lost, not to mention the ship and the crew and the resources. So, I mean, this is a big deal. Something is taking out these huge, massive vessels, and, that's what the story is about, among other things, I'm sure. So, I'm looking forward to it. So far, it's been pretty good. I think I'm about 15% into it, but after that, I have, I have a few books left on my list. This is a sticky note that has what the things that were recommended to me. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I guess I'll hold it up. Yeah, there we go. Ancillary Sword, which was recommended to me by Kaki, which I know he told me, and I found out that Ancillary Justice is actually the first one. So of course I'll start at the beginning. Because I remember when I started the Honor Harrington series, I read the second book first. Now, of course, I didn't know it was the second book, but as I was reading the early chapters, I was hearing them talk about the first book, and it was just like, okay, this is definitely not the first book in the series. But I mean, it worked out really well because the second book was very good. Unfortunately, the series, the Honor Harrington series, suffered from the every book is the same syndrome, and after a while, I just lost interest because every book literally followed pretty much the same pattern. It's just like everybody either loves the main character or they hate them with a religious fury. And it was just like, I just can't handle that again. So, I stopped reading after book 6 or something. But I also have Machineries of Empire, which I don't know what it's about, and The Warrior's Apprentice. But basically, at least for right now anyway, I have a good stack of books that are in my pile, so I'm probably not going to buy any additional books until the next time I get a paycheck, which I guess is probably next week. So hopefully by then I'll have finished Sirius at least, and I'll be able to move on to another one, and I'll read all of these and so on. But anyway, I guess to move on really quickly, or not really quickly, since I've been talking for 17 minutes already. I had my first mammogram on Thursday, which I honestly never expected to be having one. But being since I am went the transgender direction, I guess that's something that happens now. So it was just mostly just something that had never really occurred to me, I guess, just because I don't know. But, it's all well and good, I guess. For having never had one, it was, uncharted territory, a novel experience, and hopefully not anything to be concerned about. I mean, I don't think it is, because I think a lot of people get, I think they recommend women get them every year or something. But anyway, I guess basically just to talk about the experience really quickly. I went to the wrong building first because the address suggested, to me anyway, a different location. So I went to the wrong building, and then I had to find the right building. And once I found the right clinic, I filled out a form and then just kind of waited, and they did their thing. And if you don't know exactly what they do, they took me into a room, gave me like a gown, surgical gown, and kind of, I guess, put they kind of stick you in this machine where it kind of squeezes things and scans it. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of technical expertise that I don't really have, but anyway, it didn't take long, and it really wasn't painful. It was just kind of odd. I'd say I wouldn't even necessarily say it was uncomfortable, but it was just weird. And then after that, I just went home. And I guess that's really just about it for now. We apparently Netflix has a couple more episodes of the new My Little Pony. I don't know. So far, it's looking like it's got potential. I think that the staggered release of the early episodes is kind of, I guess, making it feel a little weird to me, because they started with a movie, and then they had like another solo episode, and then they had another series of like 8 or 10, and it's just like, I don't know. I think it would have made more sense to just release the movie, and then like the whole collection of episodes at once because it kind of feels, I guess, strange. I mean, I like the characters, I like the concept. I kind of think that they're not quite as distinct as G4. I mean, the friendship is magic. It's definitely lightning in a bottle, and I think that Make Your Mark is doing pretty well so far. I mean, I don't know. It's the title. It's like it used to be. The movie was like A New Generation or something. I don't know. So far, it's like it's like I said, it's got potential. I'm interested to see where it goes, but I guess for now, we'll see. But so far, it's pretty decent, and I guess that's about it for now. So I will catch you guys in 2 weeks. If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!